Hello and welcome back to the channel. I have been playing an obscene, doctors would describe it as unhealthy amount of Brawl these past 2 days. Probably logging 100 games or so of just simply Brawl. I haven't even touched standard predecessor. I have no idea what goes on in there anymore. All I know is Brawl. My mind has conformed to that of Brawl. I'm in a constant state of brawling in my own thoughts. You know, I close my eyes, I see the Gideon 5-man ult, I open them up, suddenly I'm in traffic about to get into an accident. So I've been playing a lot of Brawl recently, and I had the pleasant experience, the benevolent joy of playing with the king himself, Joe, yours truly. Now, me and Joe clocked in about, I'd say, 10 games or so today, and while we were playing, I, of course, picked his mind at what he thought the state of Brawl meta was, you know, who's at the top of the list, the Gideon, who's at the bottom of the list, the FaZe. And after, you know, discussing through intellectual discourse by playing 5 ADCs, 5 mage comps, you know, we tried going 5 supports, that one was a little but after our intellectual prowess and limit testing, I've come to the conclusion that alarm, alert, alert, Iggy and SCORCH is good. I repeat, Iggy and SCORCH is good. I may have been lacking on my first tier list. You know, I was just a humble fletchling out the nest. Only 20 games in, I thought I knew the world, but I hadn't even grown my full-fledged feathers yet. And I now see the error in my ways, and I've come to realize that Iggy and SCORCH is not that bad. You know, A+, you know, that might be a little stretch, but Iggy and SCORCH really is not that bad. So my main criteria on the first tier list, I'm sure you've seen, is mobility, AoE burst damage, and crowd control. And Iggy and SCORCH, you know, he doesn't really have mobility, he doesn't really have crowd control, but he does have a fair bit of AoE damage. Now, the main reason why I think I had Iggy so low is he kind of plays differently in Brawl than most of your other OP quote-unquote characters, like your Gideons, for example. What's Gideon's main goal? Well, to blast people down, to teleport in, set up a fire engagement, hit a 5-man ult, and win the whole game. Iggy and SCORCH kind of wants to do the opposite of that. He doesn't actually really want to brawl, which is funny in the Brawl mode, a character not actually being good at brawling, but still finding themselves so high on this tier list. Why is that, you may ask yourself? Well, there's really one reason why, and that is he's so good at clearing the waves, the objectives, the orb primes, the fang tooths, any minions walking your way. Iggy and SCORCH will eat them right up. Delicious, delicious. Chomp them right up and guzzle them down. And I've found that Iggy does tend to get a pretty high amount of damage throughout his games. You know, personally, I'm not much of an Iggy and SCORCH enthusiast in my Brawl games. You know, if I'm playing Brawl, I want to, shocker here, go in and brawl. And Iggy and SCORCH doesn't really do that, per se. But what he does do still brings you so many points throughout the game of just clearing the minions, clearing the Fangtooths, and his late game damage is nothing to scoff at. It's very high, quite powerful. So all in all, I've seen the error of my ways. I asked Joe, yours truly, personally, I said, hey, what do you think about Iggy? And he said, you know, I think Iggy's actually pretty good. You know, he didn't say he's as good as Gideon now, so let's, you know, hold on to your horses there, Iggy and SCORCH. Pitchforks and knives and torches, mob of angry crowd. I don't think he's, you know, still quite at the top of the bracket. Some of you might have been a bit overzealous of your comments, you know, thinking that he's the GOAT, he's the god. Iggy and SCORCH better than Gideon? I'm not so sure about that. I think he's more down here in a respectable A tier. which, you know, even for me, I think is pushing it a little bit, but I've seen the success. You know, I saw Joe play Iggy, he got top damage. Need I say more? That's, you know, and I've heard him, the words out of his mouth say, I actually think Iggy and Scorch is pretty good in Brawl. He uttered those words, I heard them into my ear. Monkey brain activate, symbols start clapping, the monkey does a backflip, neurons fire, thought produced. Ah, yes, Iggy and Scorch is not actually that bad. So, that's my long-winded apology letter. Sorry to all the Iggy lovers. I was wrong. You know, I still think, if you look at it fundamentally of, like, what characters are good at brawling, Iggy would still be, like, down at the bottom. He really doesn't want to brawl. But is he bad in the game mode Brawl, where you're not necessarily, like, winning by brawling, you're more winning by getting more points than the enemy? He's pretty good at getting points. You know, he's not really good at brawling, but he's good at getting points. I have to acknowledge that. Iggy and Scorch, I'm going to put him A tier for now. He's not as bad as I thought. Please forgive me. Comment down below. We forgive you, you big dumb idiot. We understand that you're just a simple, feeble-minded console player, and we still love you nonetheless. Keep making videos. That would be a great comment. Thank you so much. Love you guys. That being said, I think this looks like pretty reasonable tier list. I'm gonna try to be a little more direct, a little less wordy and long-winded in the rest of the tier list, and kind of just start ripping right through it on characters I find to just be so incredibly broken. And we're gonna start at the very top with the Gideon and the Zarus. I think Gideon and Zarus are... Oh, getting a phone call here. Declined. I think Gideon and Zarus are, in my eyes, after 100 games, after seeing the constant cages and constant 5-man Gideon Black Hole Ultimates, I find them to be the two best characters in Brawl. That's right, even better than Aurora. I think Aurora has, after the first day, people kind of know how to deal with her more. I think she's falling down a little bit, but still probably somewhere around the S tier, or the A+. So, Gideon, Zarus, in my mind, and in the minds of many others, including the GOAT himself, Joe yours truly, are still the best characters in Brawl. I asked him who he thought was the best. You know, Gideon and Zarus definitely came right up in that discussion. So, I've been reading the comments. You know, I read every comment. They sting. You know, I wake up in the morning like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a great day. Open the YouTube comment notifications. 10 comments. You're an idiot. You're stupid. I hate you. Iggy and Scorch is OP. Literally, go jump off a bridge, you buffoon. And, you know, they have influenced, I'll say, my opinions. And I saw one very heavy-worded comment on Sparrow. And I think they had some merit to it. They said Sparrow is the actually, and the finger up emoji. Sparrow is actually one of the best characters in the game, and I don't think she's one of the best in the game, per se, but I do still think she's pretty strong, and I have seen what she's capable of. Her damage output is just absolutely I think it's the highest. I don't really think anyone can do more damage in a fight than the Sparrow. So for that, I'm actually going to, like, kind of bump her up a good bit. I'm sure you guys are shocked and appalled. Like, huh? Sparrow? She has no dash, but she's good. She has no CC, but she's good. I do find Sparrow to be doing actually quite well. You know, early game Sparrow, you know, you're still kind of a pushover. Once you get a couple items, you can really just plow through some teams. As long as they don't have anyone to, like, shut you down too hard, can really kind of just plow through some people and bowl them over like a bowling ball. Of course, though, I still don't think she's quite in the S tier, but I see where you're coming from, commenters. Please keep commenting. I do read all the comments, and I love them, even the ones that say I'm a big idiot and that I should never make a YouTube video again. Please keep commenting that. It just really brings me joy. Next up in the S tier, it's going to be, the Steel. I'm sure you've been hit with the Steel ult, and then immediately the Gideon ult, and the Zarus ult, and the Aurora ult, and you're just like, oh wow, 4 ults for me, oh my lucky day, I love playing the game, I love being stunned 3 times by one character. And that's just what Steel's going to bring to the table. Very powerful, absolute hoss, nearly unkillable, shield wall blocks all the bullets, dash in, ultimate, stun, I'm a tank, haha, I win, you lose. Steel's still absolutely smatter-knackling and at the top of the list. Next up on the old docket here, Davy Crockett docket, Riktor. Now, Riktor is kind of just an instant death sentence to a lot of characters. If he hits that hook on you and you're playing, I don't know, a Sparrow or something, your goose is just cooked, buddy. You better sit down at the Thanksgiving table with your cooked goose and just sit down and eat, because you're a goner. His hooks are so powerful. He brings so much value. You know, oh, Gideon teleports in and does his ult. Ooh, Riktor hook. Oh, you know, yada yada, something happens. Riktor hook, bada bing, bada boom. Super powerful. Top of the line, top of the morning to you. And I still find Riktor to just be doing absolutely so well in these games. Next up, I'm looking along. I think I have been sleeping on Feng Mao. All in all, I'd say that assassins, for the most part, aren't that great in Brawl. You kind of more want like a CC heavy AoE burst damage mage or tank or even a carry. The carries have kind of been eating, and that kind of puts the assassins, you know, down a couple pegs. But Feng Mao doesn't care about any of that. He says, oh, what's that? Instant dash in, 4-second cooldown reduction, dash out, kill your whole team, you can't even touch me, bucko. I've seen Feng Mao just wreak havoc on many teams. He can just go in, get out before your Riktor can even turn their head and look for a hook. He's already gone. Feng Mao has been absolutely eating. Feng Mao enjoyers rejoice. He is up. I think he is definitely the best assassin, quote-unquote assassin, in Brawl right now, and has been doing very, very well. Next up in the S tier, looking about, I mean, it's just gotta be Narbash. I've been sleeping on him. I heard the words come out of Joe Your Truly's mouth. Oh, Narbash is definitely S tier. I heard him say it. Monkey symbol neuron fire activation. I'm thinking, formulating my own opinion. Yep, Narbash is S tier, alright. Let's go just slap him right down. He just has infinite healing, good initiation with a stun, good initiation with his move speed. Brawl, y'all go faster. His ult's good in a team fight. He really just brings it all and is going to be the best healer, hands down, in Brawl. Just keep everyone topped up. The S tier's looking pretty good, but I you know, it can't be a tier list without putting Argus into the S tier. He still just does it all. He still just has way too much CC, way too much burst damage, way too much AoE. His ultimate goes halfway across the map and through the walls and will just kill you while you're in your base. You're just like, oh, yay, more Argus for me, thank you. He just sucks to play against, and I've been seeing Argus just always be a dominant force. You know, he's not quite the level of a Gideon, but he's still just so powerful. Like, Gideon and Argus together with a Zarus. Like, if you see these characters running at you, you're just like, well, I guess I'm screwed here. Just brings way too much to the table to not put in the S tier. And I think we're looking pretty good on the S tier here. But I would really be remiss if I just did not put Kwang up there as well. I haven't been seeing a lot of Kwang, but when I do, it is just so overwhelmingly powerful, so dominant, so just Kwanging, and it's really all... Oh, what's that? More fire trucks going by? Of course, thank you. It's really just all about his tether, okay? He can stay back at a safe distance, very non-committally throw his tether out. If it hits, you know, if it hits that Sparrow, oh, what's that, team? Let's fucking get in there, ult in, yada bing, bada boom, lightning of Thor on your head. Your goose is cooked. Kwang is, in my eyes, still an S tier hero, and I think he might be just rounding out the list at the top of the S tier. Next up on the docket, I am going to put the Murdock, and I actually think I might value the Murdock over the Sparrow. Now, what Sparrow can do just in a team fight by just shredding through your whole team, Murdock can kind of do, like, as a fight is ending, I guess, and just finish off anyone that's trying to get away. So many times I've seen people sniped by the Murdock ult. It's pretty much impossible to miss on this map because you can just see everything. You're like, oh, running to your base, are you? Snipe, you're done. Murdock's just clacking. He's got the safety that Sparrow doesn't have. He's got the buckshot, get off me. He's got the root trap. He's got the movement speed. Sparrow don't really got any of that, but she does bring a little more damage. He's really good in like a duel. He's got the extra range on his shots. He can kind of like shoot from a safer distance when your passive is up. I found Murdock to just be doing very, very well and locking himself firmly in the A+ tier, and I can't talk about the hunters in the A+ tier without putting Drongo up here. I still think Drongo is the best carry, ADC, hunter, ranger, whatever you want to call them, in Brawl, just because of his silence is so good, and he has the little bit of safety with his ultimate. He can really finish someone off. He benefits from crits, and the meta in Brawl seems to be kind of like a crit meta for the hunters, for the ADCs. He's got crit in his passive, and just he loves it. I've seen Drongo be very successful. I think he's kind of the dominant carry, but all three of these have been causing some ruckus in my games. I almost forgot about Sweet Dekker. I'm putting her up in the S tier as well. I'm bumping her up a couple pegs. Her initiation with the stun is just so incredibly beyond cracked. She can just select somebody a mile away, and then your Riktor's like, oh, duh, I see a stun, I'm gonna hit my hook, and they're just cooked. The stun hook combo between these two is just so powerful. Her cage is just broken in a team fight. Why is Zarus such an S tier hero? Well, probably because of his cage. And what's Dekker have on just a regular cooldown ability? A cage. So strong, absolutely powerful, can jump up on all the little rocks and pillars and boulders and whatever, just be a dominant beast. Next up in the A+ tier, I'm actually going to put Grim. I think the carries are absolutely eating right now, and it's really hard to go wrong if you're picking an ADC. Grim has been blessed with like 5 new items. It seems like that were specifically tailored to him. Like a crit item that also gives you magical power, huh? Crit item that also makes your abilities deal more damage, huh? Grim loves all of that. He wants it up. He's like, no. I love all of these items. They're so good. Thank you so much, developers, for just pimping Grim out with the drip. He's got the chain. He's got the grill. He's eating. Grim has been doing very, very good in my games. Reliable. If like I'm not gonna say I'm like great at Brawl, but it seems like every time I go Grim, I'm just dominating and just winning that game. And he's just so powerful. His ult is great. His lob is good. He's really been crunching. You know, when Brawl first came out, I was like, Grim's not going to be that good. But then I see all the new items. I see all the other people that are also good at Grim. I'm like, maybe Grim is good. And I think he is. I'm putting Grim into the A+ tier. And honestly, if you are an ADC, you are stomping right now. Kira's going to be up here too. But I think I'm actually going to move Kira down a little bit compared to some of these other ADCs. I see these ADCs kind of just dominating a bit more than I see the Kira. These guys kind of work a little better in a team fight and bring a little more to the table, whereas the Kira is just like an average ADC. She's like fine. And I kind of see her getting outshined by some of these other ones. Yeah, she has the dash. Yeah, her ultimate is like okay, but you'd really rather a Sparrow ultimate in a fight. And you'd really rather like, I don't know. Seems like Kira's just not quite doing as much damage as these other ADCs. Maybe I'm wrong. She's still good. A tier, carry, hard to go wrong with them. They are very strong. But she's a little more like ability focused kind of, and like I don't know. She's still good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think she's quite up to snuff with these other ADCs. Now, ADC's out of the way. Let's keep going through this tier list here, shall we? And I'm going to put Howitzer up here next. I think Howitzer is still super duper uber fragilistic powerful, but he's just such a big body that that Riktor hook is never going to miss. The Dekker stun ain't missing. You know, Feng Mao can jump on you, Argus hit you with a stun. He's just a little too easy to hit, which I find, you know, brings him down a peg, but his ult is crazy in the team fights. He's pretty safe with his range on his rockets. He can just stack up that Dream Binder, or whatever it's called. Soul Binder, Life Binder, Dream Binder, Middle School Binder. I open it up and, oh, I didn't bring my homework to class today. Howitzer's very good. And I think the A+ tier is looking pretty good, except for how could I forget Sevarog. Now, I think Sevarog is definitely a step below some of these other tanky initiators, the Riktor, the Steel, even the Kwang. But I find Sevarog to just be absolutely cracked in Brawl. His ability to just like safely fish for a root, kind of the same way Kwang can sit back and toss out some tethers, very non-committal. You don't have to like hard commit on them. You're just like, oh yeah, just throw some tethers out. If they hit, good. If they don't, whatever. I got another one up in a little bit. You get free stacks. You got your ultimate, incredible displacement. You got a fat dash, big tankiness. You can just become the biggest body in Brawl. You get the Sapphire's mantle, you get the purple buff, and suddenly you're just a overlord titan behemoth. I see Sevarog doing very well in the Brawl games. You don't see him much, but when you do, you're like, dang, he's kind of cooking. Next up into the A tier, I think we're going to put the Gadget, and I might even put the Gadget over the Iggy and Scorch. It's kind of hard to compare a character to Iggy because all of the other characters, you kind of compare them on how good are they at brawling. Whereas Iggy's just horrible at brawling, but really good in the mode Brawl, because he can get the, like, quote-unquote objectives of Brawl and rack up points for his team and do a lot of damage. But Gadget in a team fight is still very strong. She's kind of like a budget Gideon, but if you combine Gadget and Gideon, everybody's getting smoked in those ults. Her ult is a banger, her sticky mine is whatever. Her slowing mine, I found her to be very, very good in team fights, as well as her speed up root, providing a lot of value. Gadget I found to be doing pretty good, all things considered. Next up, characters that are like still pretty good. I'm gonna put Wraith. Now Wraith is still very good, don't get me wrong, still an A tier champion. I just kind of find these other ADCs just like mowing down the whole team more, whereas Wraith is more kind of like clacks one person, maybe two. The rest of these guys can kind of just bowl over a whole team. Wraith's like, oh yeah, I can take that guy on, and maybe I can get this other guy. But I don't see him just like team wipe stomping, being as threatening with his damage as much as these other characters are. Like, I can't tell you the amount of times I've been like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go in and ult him as Gideon, and I just get mowed down by like Sparrow and Drongo, just annihilated. But if I ult that Wraith, he's dying like 9 times out of 10. He doesn't really have enough damage to just kill me flat out. But Wraith's still very good, his rewind's good, his invisibility's good, poke is great. Still a good character. Next up onto the docket here. Kind of eyeing this Bellica. Eyeing the Bellica. I think we're gonna actually put Bellica right in the A-. Now, Bellica has the best knockup in the game, bar none. It's just absolutely incredible. But it's more OP, I guess, in the standard predecessor game, where you're kind of in a 1v1, maybe a 2v1. You can hit both of them with a knockup. I feel like after Bellica does her knockup, she's kind of a sitting duck, and you can't really knock up all 5 enemies, so you knock up like 2 enemies, and then the other 3 are just coming right for you, and there's really not a lot you can do. You have no dash, no safety. Still good, still provides a lot of good value, but I've seen the Bellica kind of getting like a little more a little more like pushed to the side of the tier list, I guess. Kind of like less of a priority pick. Still good, still a good combo character. But you're kind of better off with like the Argus or the Dekker if you want like a CC character, because they're a little more safe, a little safer. Next up, I think I'm looking at the Fae here, and I might actually put in the Fae somewhere around here. I think I am going to put her still around the Bellica. She kind of suffers from the same problem as Bellica, where just like the no mobility, no dash really comes to bite her a lot. Her ultimate is good. I've seen more good Fae ults now after I've played about 100 games. But it still feels like Fae, for the most part, is kind of just like a worse budget Gideon. Like you'd rather that Gideon ult every time than a Fae ult. That being said, you know, you throw a Fae ult, a Gadget ult, and a Gideon ult all in the same spot, and people are dying. But the rest of Fae's kit is kind of a little lackluster to me in Brawl. The slow is like kind of whatever. Her little poke thing is kind of like, you know, whatever. If you're getting close enough to where you can hit that poke, you're gonna like take some big damage in return. And I found Fae to just be doing like pretty good. She's definitely rising in my personal ranks, but still not quite as like overwhelmingly powerful to bring as much value some of these other mages are. Next up on the docket here, I think we're going to put the Rampage. Now, I had Rampage a lot higher before I had him around here. Seems as though Rampage's only good thing he brings in Brawl is his rock, which is still just incredible value. The stun is immaculate, the distance on it is crazy. You hit a Rampage rock into a Dekker stun, into a Riktor hook, and that dude is dying and has no way to counter it. But I think, like, outside of that, Rampage kind of is like such a big target. He's a little easier to focus down. It's pretty easy to hit with the Riktor hook. And he doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot outside of his rock, and like his ultimate is still kind of good. Like the rumble slow is fine, but I'm not seeing Rampage really thunk as hard as I had thought he would. Seems as though he's kind of like falling down a little bit in my own personal view. As the meta kind of stabilizes, as people kind of fall into the groove of the Gideon and Zarus, Rampage loses a little bit of his luster, but is still pretty good. I'm going to put him in the A- tier. Moving on in the tier list, I think we're going to start off the B tier with Revenant. Controversial. Everyone thinks, oh, Revenant, he's the worst character in the game. Oh, Revenant, he's so bad. But I think in Brawl, he's kind of been cooking. What makes Revenant so bad is his early game is just horrendous. But when you're just bottle fed your early game and just can get right into the mid game and late game, Revenant has kind of been cooking. You know, he's not quite as powerful as these other carries, other ADCs, but if you're in a team fight, you know, there's 5 people looking at you, and you're like, ult the Dekker and just go all in on Dekker, you're usually sitting pretty in those fights. And I have found Revenant to be doing, overall, pretty solid. You know, not still the best, but I've seen him be clapping, and I still think I would rather have a Revenant than I would a Twinblast. Controversial, I know, people aren't really going to like this, but I'm actually going to put Twinblast in the C tier. I'm just like, he's okay. Maybe I'll knock him up to B tier just because he is an ADC after all, and they're all just so brokenly powerful in Brawl, just able to get late game so fast. But I feel like Twinblast doesn't really excel in the team fight as much as he does in kind of like a lane 1v1 poking down and whittling. You kind of want like to just one-shot nuke AoE ability stun clap somebody. And he's more like a tickler, like, oh yes, here's a 10 damage grenade, here's a 10 damage grenade, here's a 10 damage grenade. Well, here's a 700 damage Gideon rock, and you're just cooked. Like, get out of here, Twinblast. I'm putting him down here. Controversial. Comment down below if you really like playing Twinblast and Brawl. But I've just seen them like I'll watch the Twinblast on my team charge in against like the Murdock or the Sparrow on their team, and they just absolutely shut him down. They say, sit down, little boy, and kill him in like 2 shots while he hits them with 5 shots and doesn't even do a quarter of their health. Seems like Twinblast is kind of like not really meant for Brawl. His mobility's nice on his dash, sure, But at that point, like if you want to ADC with a dash, like Murdock with the movement, Kira has a dash. I don't know. I haven't really been seeing Twinblast popping off per se. And I'm gonna drop him down to the C tier. Characters I also just don't really see popping off is going to be the Shinbi. She's like fine, I guess, but again, what Shinbi really wants to do is split push a lane and like push towers and be a split pusher and like an assassin, if you will. But it seems like the assassins are kind of struggling in Brawl. They don't really have a good place in Brawl. They can work, sure, but a lot of times I'd just rather have a Gideon and a Zarus than like a Shinbi or a Khaimera, you know? Like they just don't really provide as much value. The game mode Brawl's not really like as built around them. They kind of more want to isolate one person and go and like 1v1 them. But it is a rare occurrence to get a true 1v1 in a Brawl game. Like it still happens, sure, you can still get your Shinbi 1v1s. You just have to be like really patient and not really provide a lot of value to your team in the meantime while you're like waiting around. I just haven't really seen Shinbi doing that well. Another character I just don't really see doing that well is the Countess. I think I'd rather have a Countess than a Shinbi. I think I'd rather have a Countess than a Twinblast. But a lot of times I see Countess, you know, what she want to do, she wants to go in and one-shot one person. But if you're going in on Countess, you're usually coming face to face with a stun, and you get stunned on Countess after dashing into 5 people, your goose is absolutely incinerated. It is cooked beyond belief, scorched, and burnt to a crisp. I just haven't really seen Countess, you know, doing all that incredibly good. Next up, a character that I think is still like fine, but a little lackluster when compared to the other ones, but still kind of does what they want to do. It's going to be the Greystone. Greystone's whole thing is just surviving a long time, but he doesn't really have the stuns, the AoE, or like the setup that a lot of the other initiator tanks have. He more just has like, oh, I'll live a couple seconds longer, which can be valuable, you know, like can really turn a fight just having an extra couple seconds to stay alive, letting your team, you know, rotate over and help you out. But I haven't really seen Greystone be like that scary or like overwhelming force like a Zarus or a Steel is. He's kind of more just like, you know, okay, I'd rather have him than these 3, but like, he's, you know, he's like, meh, you know, he's kind of like a, he's, you know, he's kind of like, he's just kind of, yeah. Next up on the docket, gonna be the Morigesh. I found the Morigesh to be doing like okay. Again, I'd kind of put her in the Greystone Revenant area where like they can still do what they want to do, but there's not like would you rather a Morigesh on your team or the Gideon, you know? Like sure, that's kind of a harsh comparison to make. You'd rather Gideon than pretty much every other character. But would you rather the Morigesh or like a Gadget or a Iggy or a Faye? You kind of would rather some other mages, some more like team fight focused mages, big AoE ability mages, big mobility mages. She doesn't really have any of that. She can still get kills. I found her mark to be like pretty good in a team fight because it's kind of hard to remember like if you're marked or not when you're getting shot by 8 different things. You're like, oh, I don't even know if I've been marked. And a lot of times you can kind of catch people lacking with the Morigesh ult. Still pretty good, maybe even up in the A-, but I think I'm going to put her in the B. Next up on the lists, Crunch. I think Crunch might go into the A- for me. Crunch seems like on paper he'd be incredibly broken in Brawl. He's like big, kind of tanky. He has incredible mobility, probably the best mobility in the game with 2 dashes. And like an uppercut, good CC, he's got stuns, uppercuts. But again, you get hit with a stun while you're playing Crunch, and that really just shuts you down pretty fast. And if you look at the top of the board, you know, top of the lobby slobbers, a lot of them got a fat stun that Crunch just wants nothing to do with. And that really brings him down a peg. He's also just so big, he's kind of easy to hit with a Riktor hook and just pull him in and blow him up. I found that Crunch is kind of like fine, middle of the road, like can pop off, but can also just be absolutely shut down and feel kind of rough to play. Next up is the Grux. I think Grux and Crunch kind of fall in a similar category where they just really don't want to be hit with a stun and more want to like gank someone out of the jungle or like go into a 1v1. And it's kind of harder to get those 1v1s in Brawl. That being said, the Grux pull in has still caught me lacking many times. Dash in with the uppercut, hit a fat pull, hit your ult. You're probably going to die on Grux, but you're probably going to get a couple enemies to die as well. You're kind of like go in, take them down with you style. And he's still provides some good value, but I found like a lot of the other kind of brawlery initiators ought to be a little better than Grux. And he's falling down a little bit for me. Next up is the Kallari. This one's going to be hard to place. You know, you ask one guy, is Kallari good in Brawl? He's like, oh yeah, she's broken, she's S tier, she's the best. But you ask another guy, is Kallari good in Brawl? They're like, Kallari's like the worst character in Brawl. So it's pretty hard to accurately place Kallari. It kind of just depends on the player, depends on their ability to like spot out a good engagement. But I found all in all, it seems as though the assassins are kind of lacking in general, except for Feng Mao. He's absolutely broken in Brawl. But all the rest of the assassins are kind of a little lower on the list. You know, your Countesses, your Shinbis, your Zarus and Khaimeras kind of fall down a bit for me. So I think I'm going to keep Kallari just like kind of middle of the tier list, where she could be very good, she could be very bad. Kind of a harder character to place. I think I'm just going to keep her right in the middle, where they're just like fine characters. Next up is Khaimera. I think Khaimera, you know, can cook. I think he's a little better than Revenant, probably. I think Khaimera can cook, but he really would rather be in a regular lane, 3 lanes in a jungle game predecessor. You can't heal up off your passive, even off the Fang Tooths. You just seems like Khaimera really got the short end of the stick in Brawl. Seems as though like the whole mode of Brawl is just not really built for him. That being said, I've still found good success with Khaimera. You know, I still usually walk away with top kills when I play Khaimera, but I also usually have like top deaths. It's kind of similar to Grux, where it's like go in and get a kill or two and then die. It's not really like suited as the Feng Mao is, where you can go in, get a kill or two, and then get out very easily. Khaimera doesn't really have that get out. Grux doesn't really have the get out. And I found them to just kind of be like doing okay, but you kind of would rather other characters. Next up on the like pretty okay, but you'd kind of rather other characters is going to be the Muriel. I've seen the Muriel ult like really turn a fight before and really come in clutch. I might actually put Muriel up here. I think I'd put her around the Fae, where it's just like, yes, she's good, but wouldn't you just rather have a Dekker or a Riktor or a Steel if you're looking for a support? Like a Narbash? Seems as though like the no CC, no mobility, no AoE kind of knocks her down a peg. The big shields are nice, you know, the ult is really good, but seems like Muriel kind of just like doesn't do a whole lot in the team fight. Like she maybe counters a little bit of damage. Like that shield would maybe block like one Drongo shot maybe. But even then, it seems like the shields kind of just get blown up and blown through, and it doesn't really matter too much. Next up is the Seraph. I've seen a comment saying that Seraph's actually broken in Brawl because she can just have her passive ultimate heresy up constantly. And I've been playing a lot of Seraph in Brawl to try to test that, trying to put my due practice in. But I think still, she's still kind of like an assassin. All in all, Brawl's really not like leaning towards the assassins as much as like the AoE burst stun type characters. And it seems as though Seraph like can pop up, yes, but a lot of other times she can kind of just seem like she's not really doing too much. She kind of relies on the enemy team to be a little dumb and blind and like not see her coming from the side. But if they see you come in, they hit you with a stun. You really can't do all that you want to do. And I think this is going to be the tier list. Let me do a bit of balancing out. I think we'll move Bellica and Faye up a little bit. I think we'll move Sereth down a little bit. And honestly, I think this is looking pretty good, all things considered. Maybe I could see moving like Twinblast and Countess up a little bit. Shinbi, I just have not seen them really provide much value. Morigesh, I think I'd rather Morigesh than... I'll move Morigesh like up here. Alright, I think I am going to stick with this. And, like, this looks pretty good to me. Maybe move Grux down a little bit. Something like this, I think, would be a fine tier list. Again, to all the Iggy and SCORCH enjoyers, you have no reason to forgive me. I've desecrated our boy. I put him in the F tier. I think, you know, if you look at, like, the conceptually brawling aspect of, like, what characters are good in a brawl, like going in and brawling, I don't think Iggy's good in a brawl. I still stand by that. He's really not. But is he good in the game mode brawl? He's pretty solid. He usually gets top damage. He usually is, like, kind of clacking and clearing a lot of minions. Found him to be doing pretty good. And I think this tier list, let me just give it the old once over again. Maybe Sparrow above Murdock. They're pretty close. I think we're looking pretty good here on the tier list. I think we're looking pretty good. Yeah, so, well, hope you've liked this new updated tier list / apology video / please subscribe to my channel. I'm almost at 250 subscribers. Oh my, a quarter of the way to 1,000. And then I can start putting ads on every video. Oh yeah. Next tier list you click on is going to be like, hey, welcome to the channel and welcome to Raid Shadow Legends. Just kidding. I probably won't get there. But if I do, I'll remember all of the lovely commenters. I remember you all. I love you all. Even the ones that are the Twinblast stands who say, actually, Twinblast is S tier and Brawl. Clearly you don't have the right build for him. What are you, an idiot? You don't even know how to play Twinblast? What are you, still in silver and bronze? Like, duh. But to the rest of you guys, you know, the nice folk, thank you. To the mean folk, keep commenting. I think it drives action and drives my channel a little bit, gets more people clicking on it. So comment down below the things you hate, the things you love, your favorite color. If you had a superhero power, what would it be? Your mother's maiden name, the 3-digit code on the back of your credit card, and your home address. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.